Okay, the purpose for this recording is just to kind of practice another strategy we're using for note taking, which is prediction. And I have on my other screen downloaded the reading strategies checklist, which is just a table that allows me to record different things I'm seeing in the text, such as titles, important terms, and sourced information, as well as any images, graphs, or tables, and then predicting what I think I will learn based on what I see. And so this is not a deep reading, it's actually skimming, which I know in the previous recording was kind of a no no, but it is a preview strategy, which means I'm going to return to the text and do a deeper reading. But this is for the purpose of note taking. So the first thing I'm going to notice, I'm on page 26 of the textbook, which is the first page of chapter 2. And obviously the titles and subtitles are in different color fonts. I see different fonts used, different font styles, and heading styles or headers, so different levels of size, I guess, is another way to say it, that will make certain things stand out to me. So, right under the chapter 2 heading is the title of the chapter, Active Reading. So, of course, I then see a green table that lists the goals of the chapter. So I'm seeing words like identify, annotate, preview, recognize. And then I'm just skimming through and making note of the second subtitle theme. What is the effect of multitasking? So multitasking is a huge word for this chapter, and I'm going to make note of that. And what really drew my attention is this photo, because it really relates to my life. I have young kids, and this is something that every parent of a toddler has done. Hold your toddler in one hand and then doing something else. So that really resonates with me. So just moving forward, uh, of course, I'm going to pay attention to every graphic that's used. And so here's an infographic that shows us kind of a cycle. It looks like a cycle to me. And it has before, during, after, and rereading. Okay. And so I'm just skimming and looking at the words. A lot of these words are familiar to me. I'm looking for any words that may not be familiar. One thing that stands out to me as someone who's taken education courses, activate prior knowledge. So that's a really familiar idea. And then I'm going to pay attention to the questions here. Okay, so it's giving me a passage of text and it's asking me some, 5 WH words questions about the text. So the text is lacking context and it's kind of hard to understand actually. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to that. But so the next subtitle here, previewing, which is a word we saw in the very beginning of the chapter. And I noticed that some words are jumping out at me based on the previous passage. I'm getting some more explanation of what that previous example was talking about here. Okay, just gonna move through really quickly. Um, okay, so they're giving me some tips here. I notice these are tips. Main topic, italics. I do look a lot for italics, a use of font as an indicator of things that are important, especially since we're not dealing with paper books, because paper books you just get a highlighter and you highlight things that stand out. But here, I know this ebook has ways that you can annotate. They have some things up here, some markers and things that we can underline and highlight virtually here. So, okay, that's one thing we can do. This is an article you will be reading in detail. Online students multitask more, not in a good way. That's a spoiler alert. So they put a lot of oh, I gotta exit drawing. They put a lot of oops. I just lost my place. Okay, well I guess I'll oh yeah, here it is. Here's the article I was looking for. What I like about this textbook is they put a lot of actual articles in there. So this is something that you're gonna come back to in more depth later, but There is a quiz on that article. Identifying topic, thesis, main ideas. I'm sure a lot of this is going to be familiar. And then, they kind of have, how do you write or locate a main idea, title, opening sentence, last sentence. Okay. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Annotating, I probably would want to make a note of that word that's popped up many times. I think of annotate as add a note. So it's putting notes next to things. Underlining, um, write down questions. Those are all really great examples. Summarizing text. Okay, so I think they're gonna teach me how to summarize a text. And then we come to chapter review. So this is where I would stop and kind of go back and see what questions I have and what areas I could read more deeply. All right, so that's just an example of previewing text. So just to summarize, there were several images and tables that I want to make note of. I probably would include the page number and what the image described, a lot of titles and keywords that were highlighted that I would write down on my form. So overall, I think my prediction as to what I would learn in this chapter is to learn how to take notes on a text, how to identify the main ideas of a text, and how to summarize my questions about a text and know how to go back to certain sections. So probably making a note of what sections I understood well and which ones I did not, etc. I did see some sourced information, which was the one article that was inserted into the textbook. So I would make note of that article and the author of that article and make a note to myself. I probably would want to read that in detail.